Hello, this is the author of the book The Mystery of Adam. Today I'm going to finish up my section on Melchizedek. I found another great source. Of course, I'm still doing research, and I found another great source about Melchizedek, and I want to share that today. I have said in my last video, which was pretty long, but I think it was necessary that I put everything in that video. And I know it's also difficult, so you may have to take time to really get through it and look up all the scriptures and really pray about it. I said before that the Melchizedek is just a very mystical person or figure or title, whatever you want. I last time in my video I said it's more like a title. Again, sometimes I have a feeling it's almost also like a secret organization, like a secret order, really, because that's what it's called, Order of Melchizedek. Um, and so it could also even be like an order. In other words, it's a procession procession of priests that are proclaiming the good news about Messiah. Really, that's what it is. They are the true priests that are looking forward to Messiah's coming, and of course, for the true Melchizedek to come along and as king and establish his kingdom. So basically, that's what it is. And so we have these uh, um, priests from the time of Abraham, and so I want to talk a little bit about that because this guy that I saw, his name is Matthew Moshe Nolan, and he has a ministry called Torah to the Tribes Ministry. And I watched his video called The Melchizedek Connection, and I thought that was pretty interesting. He brought out a lot of um, very hidden information. Of course, he talked about the Qumran scroll 11Q Melchizedek that gives a whole bunch of information about the Melchizedek. It seems like the Essenes knew about Melchizedek very well. They knew about Messiah, and they were waiting for Messiah. They believed that Messiah came during their time, simply because they used Daniel's timeline. And Daniel's timeline is very clear that Melchizedek will be, not Melchizedek, but Messiah will be cut off at a certain time. Okay, and that was during their time. That was exactly when Messiah was cut off. And they knew that Messiah and Melchizedek is the same person. So that the true the true Melchizedek is actually Messiah. So it is interesting, he even said that there is a scroll, Isaiah scroll, and I don't think it's 100% complete, but most of it is complete. But they found an Isaiah scroll in Qumran, in those caves. And he said that the Isaiah, and I'm going to look it up right here, Isaiah 61:2, okay? That is actually the verse that God read in right at the beginning of his ministry in a um, what is it called? The worship house of the Jews. The well, I'm not even gonna. It's the worship house of the Jews, and he read that when he was given the scroll. That's the one he read, And that's the one in Isaiah 61, 2, and probably 3 as well. And it says to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn, and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and the garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. Okay, so that's what he read in that synagogue. Now I know it. See, if I don't focus on it, I'll find it. So in that synagogue, that's what he read. Now in that Isaiah scroll of the Essenes in Qumran, it actually said to proclaim the year of the Melchizedek. I thought that was pretty interesting. So they replaced it, the Essenes replaced Lord, which is from the original text, Yahweh, and put in there. See, most of the translations say Lord. There's some that say Jehovah or Yahweh, and not very many. I'm scrolling down right now. There's a few. Darby Bible translation, probably nobody knows, but again, there are a few. Young's literal translation uses Yahweh or Jehovah, but the rest is Lord. But in that scroll, in the Essenes had put in there the year of Melchizedek. That is interesting. So he said a lot more things which I thought were really good. For instance, the Essenes, they were waiting for Messiah, for Melchizedek. They did not like the priesthood, the existing priesthood in Jerusalem, because they believed it was corrupt. Okay. Actually, they knew it was corrupt, period. They didn't believe it. They knew it was corrupt. And so that's why they actually went to Qumran to establish their little uh, uh, secluded place there with a true priesthood, and a priesthood that they believed was um, more accurate. They believed that the priesthood in Jerusalem was extremely corrupt, and it was put there by the ruler Herod. So, anyways, so that's what he said. Then also, he also talked about. Let me go. Peter. Okay, now that is a little more far fetched, and it's also shrouded in mystery because he said, um, and here we go again to the Darby Bible translation, and I looked up a whole bunch of most translations said this. Okay, let me read it. I'm gonna go to the Living Translation. I'm gonna go to the New International Version. If he did not spare, and that is 2 Peter 2:5. If he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood on its ungodly people, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness. And then here it says, and 7 others. Okay, and he says that, and 7 others is a false translation, even though, I mean, most of the translations translated like that. Now, I looked it up in my German translation, and it didn't say that. It talked about 8th, Noah the 8th, and never said anything about 7 others. Okay, so then we go to the Darby one. That seems to be a good one, I guess. Let's see, where's the Darby one? I'm looking. And spare not the old world, but preserved Noah, or Noah, the 8th, a preacher of righteousness, having brought in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. So here again we have Noah the eighth, a preacher of righteousness. And he believes this is the closest that we can come to Melchizedek. Melchizedek, of course, a king of righteousness. And here it says, a preacher of righteousness. And it could be a preacher of the righteousness, right? Um, because that's what King Melchizedek means, king of righteousness. And so he says this came closest, and it kind of may uh, kind of infer that Noah was the eighth preacher or king of righteousness. So the eighth Melchizedek. I talked last time that there is uh, a lineage of Melchizedeks starting from Adam, and see, Noah is the 10th generation. He was born in the 10th generation from Adam. So what does that mean? There were only eight Melchizedeks. There were only eight priests of Melchizedek, of the Melchizean order. Okay, eight. They were not 10. And he said, the ones that were, I think Lamech was not one, and he said Enoch was not one, because Enoch was taken. But I am not 100% sure that was his guessing. But because of that, he kind of thought that this did refer to Noah being a Melchizedek, a type of Melchizedek, or in the order of Melchizedek, a priest of the true Melchizedek. I know it's very hard to explain this Melchizedek thing, but it's more than just the true Melchizedek to come. Okay, like Jesus is the true Melchizedek, but there is also, like I said, these priests that were pointing to that Melchizedek, and they were also called Melchizedek, as we have seen only actually with Shem. But here we come the closest, I think, to see that Noah was also a Melchizedek or Melchizedek type. He was a preacher of righteousness or a preacher of the righteousness. Okay, so I thought that was really good. Also, he said that Psalms number 2, okay, Psalms number 2, which I have here, is all about the anointed king. It says, the reign of the Lord's anointed. And he talks about the ruler coming who puts down all the kings of the earth. And you can read that in 6. So it is Psalms 2:6 says, but as for me, I have installed my king upon Zion, my holy mountain. I will surely tell of the degree of the Lord. He said to me, thou art my son. We know that one, right? Today I have begotten thee. Ask of me, and I will surely give the nations as thine inheritance. See? And in the very ends of the earth as thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, okay? Which talks about what? Messiah, and also of Melchizedek. Thou shalt shatter them like earthenware. Now therefore, O kings, show discernment, take warning. O judges of the earth, worship the Lord with reverence. Now here comes a really good one. And rejoice with trembling. Do homage to the Son, lest he becomes angry and you perish in the way. For his wrath may soon be kindled. How blessed are all who take refuge in him. Who are they supposed to be taking refuge in? In the Son. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Again, um, Jesus brought that up in front of the Pharisees and said, who is he talking about? Is he talking about David here? David who wrote the psalm? And of course, no. He said to me, thou art my son. Who is he talking to? Thou art my son. Okay, who is God saying that to? Well, of course, it's Messiah or Melchizedek. So he brought that up to this psalm too, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, you can look him up and get more information from him. He makes lots of sense. Now, I wanted to say something when I recommend somebody. Does not mean that I agree with everything. I mean, there's one thing that I know I didn't agree with, and that is that he said that Solomon was a Melchizedek, and I do not believe that. Okay, I don't believe that. I know Solomon at first he was, um, following God's commandments in the beginning. Didn't follow very long. He was only 12 years old, I think, when he became king, when his father died, after his father died. So maybe at the beginning he was, more righteous. I don't know, but again, he was not in the lineage, um, even in the kingly lineage. So I don't know. I didn't agree with him there. I would need, more proof um, to believe that. So, anyways, I want you to continue to research on this Melchizedek because it is just such an intriguing thing, and it's so important. I really think it's important because, again, I think um, Peter was pretty knowledgeable about these things. I don't know if you studied with the Essenes in Qumran. I don't know. I'm not that familiar, but if you know anything, please leave a message. But he seemed to have some understanding because Peter was also the one that said that we are a royal priesthood, that we are all the believers are a royal priesthood, and that was in First Peter. Here it is. First Peter 2, 4 through 12. 4 through 10 is when he was saying that we are a royal priesthood. And so he knew something. And I believe maybe the people during Jesus' time knew more than what we know today. I think we lost a lot of information. And the people didn't just come out like Peter, didn't come out and use the word Melchizedek. And the only one that came out again is the writer of the Hebrew, talked about Melchizedek. Oh, he also said something very interesting. This guy, what's his name? Matthew Moshe Nolan. This Matthew guy, he said something very interesting, and it's a little hard for me to understand. But do you remember when Jesus was in front of Caiaphas and the high priest? And Caiaphas asked him, are you the Son of God? Okay, and you can read that, look it up yourself. Are you the Son of God? And Jesus wouldn't answer. And Caiaphas said, well, I'm going to put you under an oath. So in other words, what this Matthew said is that Caiaphas put him under a type of Levitical oath. And under that Levitical oath, if he really was, of course, Mashiach, he had to say the truth. Okay, he had to speak up. But also because he was under a Levitical oath, he also, for some reason, I don't know how this whole thing is. He now can claim to be um, the high priest. Okay, even though he's not from the Levitical line. Like, for instance, if he is from the line of Melchizedek, priest of Melchizedek, then he can claim that high priest status. And please listen to him because it's further to the back when he brought that up of his video. I know this video is pretty long, but further to the back, he brought that in. And not only that, when Jesus then answers and says, yes, I am, the Son of God. When he finally answered that, yes, I am the Son of God. Caiaphas tore his garment, which a priest was not supposed to be doing. And in doing so, he actually took himself off from the high priest's position. Okay, that disqualified him from continuing being high priest, because this garment could not be torn. The garment of a priest or a high priest, especially a high priest, could not be torn. It was saying, hey, my priesthood ended. Okay, my priesthood ended. And because of that, because Jesus was under oath, he now, because he proclaimed he was the Son of God and he is the true Melchizedek, because that's all together. Okay, that is all together. If he is the Son of God, if he is the Messiah, of course, Messiah, then he is automatically the high priest according, or the priest according to Melchizedek. Okay, so he fulfills that. And it's kind of, I'm not so knowledgeable, about the Levitical priesthood and how this whole things work. I'm just kind of piecing things together, and try to figure out what all that means, because these people, they just left us in the dark. Okay, and we have been just brainwashed from one place to another. The Jews, the uh, the rabbis during Jesus's time, and the priests during Jesus's time, they all lied and made up their own religion. Okay, until Jesus came and said, wait a minute, this is the way it is. Well, again, and then we had a time when we had like Paul, Peter, and all these speaking out and writing things, but within the next 300 years, the Roman Catholic Church took over. And when the Roman Catholic Church took over, everything was hidden again. The Roman Catholic Church didn't want to have anything to do with Judaism, nothing whatsoever. But we depend on Judaism. We depend on understanding Torah. Okay, I'm not saying you have to follow Torah. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I think the laws, and I'm not saying you don't follow some of the Torah stuff. I think we have the law on our heart. Okay, so we know when we read Torah, we know what applies to us and what doesn't apply to us. And again, lots of stuff in Torah, or the Levitical instructions, or instructions of Moses, really. They were all symbolic, and most of them are fulfilled, like Sabbath. Okay, we are now in the Sabbath rest, and Paul preached that very clearly. We are now in the Sabbath rest. And because we're in the Sabbath rest, we are always in his rest. Okay, so we don't have to celebrate or do the Sabbath thing. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, do it. And it's better than keeping the Sunday and going to church on Sundays. I mean, I go to church on Sunday because that's all I have right now. But you don't have to keep anything, because we are in the Sabbath rest. And I know that doesn't, many don't understand that. But Paul makes it clear. If you look up Paul, research Paul in the Sabbath rest, you'll find it. So anyways, I don't believe in that we have to do the Mosaic law thing. We don't have to do that. Okay, I'm not saying we don't have laws, because God gave us the law. Okay, He says love one another and love God. Okay, and if you do those, everything falls together under that. Okay, sometimes we need more specific things. Well, and then it's good to read the law of Moses. Like, for instance, in case of divorce, for instance, okay, or fornication. Do we know what fornication is? Not really, because we have our own cultural understanding what fornication is. Okay, so anyways, I want to finish up today. Keep studying Melchizedek. That's all I'm saying, because it is such um, a strange subject. So I may bring in um, some of the things about Melchizedek if I find them. But for right now, this is about it. And I will finish this up. And next time I will do something different. I may just go finally to um, the Bride of Christ. Okay, because I kind of stopped there a while back and look some more at the Bride of Christ or the church or the temple or in that direction. Alrighty, I will finish up and keep studying. Leave information on the bottom. Um, and, if you know more things than I do, please tell me, because this is important that we put our information together. These are little puzzle pieces that we're carrying together. So again, and maybe watch this Matthew guy, Matthew Moshe Nolan. That's it for today.